Okay, so here we are in our edit comp, and we're going to nest these other comps that we've done animations in so that we can create our final product. And so the first thing we're going to do is bring in the record player comp, because that's our first one that happens after our little Ritz cracker scales up to the beat of the music. So I'm just going to select it up here and drag it down. And then this isn't where I want it to be, so if we look at our cheat sheet, it doesn't happen until right about 1 second in. So you can move up and look at your edit comp again. And we also have a red solid happening here too for the background. So let's go to 1 second in, and I'm going to, let's see, drag this composition over so it starts right at 1 second, and then if I toggle my little solids folder down up in the project window, then I can grab a deep red solid. So I'll just grab this first one here, paste it in, move it so it doesn't start until 1 minute in either, and then I can extend its duration if I need to. And I'm going to turn on the continuously rasterize button here for both of these, and also turn on the motion blur for the red solid. And I don't want it to just pop on there, so I'm going to hit T for opacity and maybe move 10 frames in, set another keyframe, so this first one should be set at 0. So we have it coming in from 0% to 100%. So we can kind of see we've got a little transition going here. We've got the cracker scaling up to the beat, and then this one moving in. So it kind of takes over and hides that previous comp, which you can probably cut it right around here. We don't need it extending that long. And then we've got all of this good stuff going on, and so then that's the end of those types of animations. So we can highlight both of these and cut it right about there if we want. Let's RAM preview this really quick and see what we've got. It'll take it a little bit. Nice. So far it's looking really good, and we're going to want to bring in our other composition, our second one, which is the platter one. So I'll bring that in, and we'll look at our cheat sheet. And the platter doesn't start until right around 3:15, so we'll have to listen to the music too and make sure that's right. And we see that we've got the record player comp parented to the platter one, and we have some animation going on with the position, scale, and the opacity, because if we watch our commercial or even our sample, then that platter layer scales in like that. So we gotta make that happen. So I'm just gonna move this over till right around here between 3:15 and 4, so maybe at like 3:22. Let's listen to the music and see. So the like pew 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 that kind of sound needs to go with the these crackers disappearing. So let's RAM preview it from this spot and see what we've got. So that actually worked out. Let's check it again. Alright, so that's right on time. So you want to make sure that your platter 2 comp is right at 3:22 for the time frame. So let's open up scale, position, and opacity so that we can animate those appropriately. And let's turn on the continuously collapse transformations or continuously rasterize button right here so that everything stays crisp and clean when we're scaling it up. And if we look at our cheat sheet, we have it scaling down and the position sort of has to line up appropriately, and then the opacity fades in too. So to make that happen, we know that this is the proper place that we want it to end up, so I'm going to move ahead 10 frames maybe? Yeah, that looks about like 10 frames. And so I'm going to hit the position and scale keyframes here. I'm going to move back 10 frames to the very beginning, and so I'm going to start scaling it up here, and I'm going to change the opacity because we know that if we look at our sample here, the crackers kind of line up as they're fading in. So I'm going to keep scaling it till my cracker lines up here, and now this is where we're going to have to adjust the position of it as well. So I scaled it up a little bit too much, so we'll keep adjusting here and try to get this to line up an okay way. So that's pretty close. Maybe change this to 495 for the scale, or even smaller, 494 maybe? Heck, we could go even a tiny bit smaller. I'm at 487. I'm gonna mess with the position a little bit better. So that looks pretty good. Could maybe move over just a smidge here. Alright, so that looks pretty good, and if we just preview that, I'm going to turn my opacity back up to 100%. We have it scaling in, and then it lands where it needs to be. So with the opacity, I'm going to put a little stopwatch there and move ahead maybe 3 frames. I'll put keyframe there, go back to that first one, so it should go from 0 to 100%. So if we scrub through this, we've got this scale type thing happening, but we notice something's not quite right. It should probably be scaling. We should have this record player cracker scaling with the rest of these guys. So if we go to the very beginning of our platter composition, so at 322 in the time frame, then we're going to parent the record player to this comp. So now, if we scrub through it, we have that sort of record player moving with this, and there's not that kind of overlapping weirdness happening anymore. So let's preview this again. I'm going to go all the way home, preview everything. Takes a little bit. Alright, so we're almost there. I'm going to save it just to make sure, and we're going to bring in our last comp that's called 3 flower/end. So I've got that guy down there, and I'm just going to start moving it over. And so we know as soon as these crackers disappears where the comp sort of appears. Let's look at our cheat sheet. And it looks like it starts right again in between the 415 and the 5, so pretty much where I have it here. So if we look at it just as is, it's pretty close. It looks like my original cracker is a little bit off-centered. It's not perfect. So I could always go back into this comp, so I can double click it, and I'll maybe just move this guy over 1 and see if that solves it. It's a tiny bit off, but it happens so fast that I'm not even that concerned about it. So I'll just call it good. And we better make sure that that solid scaling up isn't too weird. I don't think it's too bad. We didn't really notice it. One thing to pay attention to, I just accidentally moved this render bar. This is telling you how much you're going to render. So notice I have it cut off here where the sound ends. I could extend this and it would render past where the sound ends, but that's not what we want. So keep that in mind if you've got animation happening and you've got 5 seconds of something, left on your comp and nothing is happening there. You can always just move this render bar, so you don't have to go through and try to change your comp settings and get it perfect. If you just move this render bar, it'll render only what's selected in that area, in this highlighted area. So that looks pretty good. I think I didn't get that perfect. Alright, that looks pretty good. So let's look at our cheat sheet and make sure we've got everything correct, which I think we do. We just have the opacity change on the solid, and we've got our sound edited, and we've just laid that first comp right in there. We've got to make sure to check the collapse transformations on everything, so all these stars are highlighted. And let's just preview it one more time before we render it, and then I think we're done. Alright, well, it didn't render all of it, so let me just make sure this last bit is okay. Yeah, it looks great. So let's go ahead and render it. I'm going to go to Composition, Add to Render Queue, and I'm going to tell it where I want it to go. So I'm going to name this Jones_EX5, save, and then I'm going to tell it to do, for the format, I want H.264. For the format options, I'm in CS4, so this might look different for you, but just make sure you've got square pixels, high profile, level 5.1, VBR 1 pass set at 6 and 8, and make sure your audio output is checked. This is really important. Click OK, and then I'm going to render that out. And then that's it.